Hi there, you guys. I just made, and I'm going to post shortly, along with this video that I'm making right now, a video that covers integration and documentation of sources according to MLA style. It focuses mostly on the smooth integration of textual evidence into your own writing, but it talks a little bit about documentation, all right, which is what this video that I'm making right now is going to focus on primarily. But I'm just gonna review some of the things I've already talked to you guys about in class, and do that using this document right here that I've showed you previously in class. This one right here. All right, let me make that bigger. Well, I have to move this window down. Oh, I'm so sick of Zoom. Okay, there it is. All right, and we've seen this before. I hope you recall having seen this before. When you were working on Essay 1, I showed this to you as an example of what your final draft should look like on the page, how it should be formatted generally. And there's the header and the heading, and this is the, why can't I highlight this? Okay, there we go. This is the title. This title has a colon. Your title doesn't have to be that long. But the point is here, notice everything is double spaced. Okay, the entire document is double spaced. Okay, why can't I highlight things without making them a color? I don't want to do that. All right, I guess I have to master my Adobe. In any case, everything's double spaced at 1-inch margins all around. The title is centered and everything else is left justified. Okay, I've seen papers where the whole thing is centered. So, you know, once you center your title, you need to reformat the rest of your paper so that it comes up along the left margin. That's what left justified means. Notice that this is a straight line and this is a wiggly line on this side because it's left justified. And then there's no extra line space between paragraphs. If you're working in a system that is set to default add space when you hit the return or enter key, you need to go into your settings and change that so that it doesn't add space between paragraphs, line space. All right, this paper has a header with the author's name and the page number so that every page in the document has that header in it, numbering the pages and also having the author's last name in that header. This is a block quote, which I have talked about in the video that I just made as something that should be used sparingly in your writing. You shouldn't need to have a lot of block quotes in your 8 to 10 page paper. I'm sorry, I've got different page requirements for different classes, so I'm getting a little confused. But for you guys, it's 8 to 10 pages. All right, and there shouldn't be a lot of block quotes in that. There can be there occasionally, but for the most part, you know, source material should be integrated into your text like this one is. Okay, there's a short direct quote here, and the rest of this source reference is paraphrased, and it's introduced. This is something I talk about in the other video. Okay, giving introductory or signal phrases to the presentation of source material, whether it's direct quote, summary, or paraphrase. You need to introduce it. And there's the parenthetical reference or in-text citation, as it is sometimes referred to, depending on the source that you're looking at that's talking about this stuff. All right, and this is an example of a source with an unknown author. There's no named author. All right, so what this information in the parentheses is it's a shortened version of the title, which is the next best piece of information that we have about this source. So that's what you give. All right, and this title hasn't been given previously in the introductory phrase, just the name of the website is given. Okay, but this is more information about this source that the writer can give, that Orloff can give. So that information is given in the parenthetical reference. All right, and then here's another source introduced. Lane, that's a different source, and that's an introductory phrase. And this is a parenthetical reference that gives the page numbers of this source because this is a paginated source. All right, the article written by Lane, or the book, I can't remember whether it's a book or an article, it has pages, so you can give those in the parenthetical reference. And the author is named here, so that author doesn't need to be, name doesn't need to be given again in the parenthetical reference. And again, I'm going through this stuff quickly because it's stuff that I assume that is for you review. All right, and there's an ellipses, which is the way that you indicate stuff that you've left out of a direct quote. If you don't want to present the whole thing, you want to leave some stuff out of the middle of it, that's how you indicate that, with the 3 spaced dots. And this is the author's name. Right. Oh, Daniel Tynan is introduced up here. All right, so Daniel Tynan doesn't need, that name doesn't need to be given again. There's no parenthetical reference here. You see this? It starts here. The whole thing starts here. All right, and it ends here. That's the whole source reference. And there's an introductory phrase that names the author and the place where this author's work has been published, PC World. All right, and then that's all the information that is available about the source. So there's no parenthetical reference here. In this one, this is also an internet source, right? But there is a named author that can be given that isn't already given. Just the ePolicy Institute, which is the organization that this author works for, is given in the introductory phrase. So the author's name can be given in the parenthetical reference here. All right, so then there are 3 elements in MLA style documentation. And the first 2 we were just talking about, an introductory phrase and an in-text citation or parenthetical reference. Right, those are the first 2 elements in the way this documentation style works. And then those things, the name of the author, right here, okay, points you to the Works Cited page on which you can find the rest of that source information, formatted in a particular way, so that you as a reader can track it down. So we were just looking at Flynn, and this is Works Cited pages alphabetized according to the best information about the source that you have. In this case, you've got an author's name. It starts with A. All right, so alphabetically, that's going to appear first on your list. All right, and then this is an organization, which is the de facto quote author unquote of this source, the American Management Association and ePolicy Institute. This is the whole author of the source. All right, and then this is that source where there's just a title but not a named author that we looked at, and we saw this word automatically appear in a parenthetical reference because there's no named author. And there are no page numbers because this is a website. But there's Flynn, okay? That's the one we were just looking at. And Flynn appears according to the author's last name alphabetically on this list. And here's all of the information about this source, right? It's a web article published by the ePolicy Institute, all right, on the internet, all right? And that's how we know where to go to find this source if we want to track it down on our own, right? And all of the rest of these sources are alphabetized. There's Lane, according to the best information we have about the source. Okay, so those are the 3 elements of MLA style documentation. All right, you've got the introductory phrase or signal phrase. You've got the parenthetical reference. Okay, there's the introductory phrase or signal phrase. There's the parenthetical reference. Okay, and then the Works Cited page. Those 3 parts work together. Okay, and let's see if there's anything else I should touch on here. When you have to block a quote, it's because that quote has exceeded or has met or exceeded 4 lines of your typed text. If it's any less than that, it should not be presented in a block. So for example, you're typing along. This is a direct quote, let's say, and you get to the end of the 4th line of your typed text. That's when you block it. All right, and again, direct quote is the exact words of the source. All right, and that's when you present it this way. If it meets or exceeds 4 lines, then you block it like this. Why can't I highlight this whole thing? There we go. All right, and No quotation marks notice with a blocked quote. Why? Because you don't need them. It says right here. Okay? They're omitted because they're not needed. We can tell this is a direct quote because of the way it's formatted. And again, back to the logic of this, I find that if I can understand the reasons why things are away, it helps me remember them better rather than someone just telling me, oh, here's this rule, follow it, memorize it and follow it. But there's a logic to these rules. And the one with omitting quotation marks here for a block quote is that it's unnecessary, right? And the idea behind this style of documentation and all styles of documentation is to make the presentation of source material as clean as possible, as clear and as clean as possible, right? To avoid unnecessary marks on the page that are distracting from the main points that the author wants to make. So we don't need quotation marks. So that's why they're omitted. There happen to be page numbers for this source, so they are given in the parenthetical reference. All right. Well, this is about clear topic sentences. All right, and that's the article. There's one other thing in here I wanted to highlight for you. I talked about ellipses already. Where is it? Where is it? Adams, Frauheim. Okay, figure one. Where is it? Where is it? I'm sorry, I'm still looking for it. There it is. That's what I wanted to point out. Okay, so this is for a source within a source. This is a parenthetical reference, all right, where the writer of this paper, Orlov, wanted to quote Joseph Schmidt. Here, come on, highlight. There we go. To quote Joseph Schmidt, right? But this writer, Orlov, doesn't have something written by Joseph Schmidt as the author. Instead, this writer found this Joseph Schmidt quote inside of this other source that they do have, written by Verispej, which is how I think you pronounce that name, but I'm not sure. All right, so that's how you indicate that when you're quoting a source within a source. QTD stands for quoted. That's an abbreviation of the word quoted. So it's QTD dot. The dot indicates that this is an abbreviation in Verispej. So now I'm not going to find Schmidt on my list of works cited down on Orlov's list of works cited, but I will find Verispej right here. And if I go to Verispej, then I will find Schmidt. Okay. Another thing, another Latin term that you can use when you've got multiple authors of a single article. You don't have to type all of their names in. You can use et al. That's ET, right? One word, and then AL dot, okay, which is an abbreviation. AL is an abbreviation. And et al. Is a Latin expression that means and all those other people. It literally means and others, so that you don't have to list everybody. I don't think I have an example of that in here. Okay, one more thing I want to point out about this example, or use this example to talk about, is the formatting of the works cited page. Because as I've said previously, I haven't been marking you guys down for improper formatting of stuff in MLA style because it hasn't mattered before, but it matters now. This assignment is about using sources in your writing and formatting them correctly and clearly. And your works cited page has to look like this one. Just look at it and copy it. This is called the hanging indent. Okay, where the first line of a source comes up to the margin, the left margin, and then subsequent lines of information that go with that source are indented 5 spaces. And the reason for that should be obvious. Visually, you can see what information goes together here, right? All of these 3 lines go with the American Management Association and ePolicy Institute source. This is all information that goes with that source. All right, so there are no bullet points, there are no numbers. Okay, the way you can tell what information goes with what, everything is double spaced. There's no extra line space between source entries. The way you can tell is the way that it's formatted in using a hanging indent. All right, and these are a couple of sources that show you the process to use in Google Docs to create the hanging indent. Okay, so if you don't know how to create a hanging indent in Google Docs, that source can help you do that. All right, if you're working in Word, this source will show you the steps to go through to create a hanging indent in Word so that your works cited page is formatted correctly. If it's not, it will lose you points in your assessment on your final draft. All righty, and this is a PowerPoint presentation. Let's see, did I download it? I just want to show it to you. Yeah, I opened this because I thought I might use it to go over these things with you, but it's way more detailed than I want to spend time with going over all of these details in this particular video. But you should feel free to look at this, okay, if you're confused at all. This is about formatting the header and the heading. You don't have to have a line like that, like this example shows, between your last name and the page number. That's fine. It can just be like Orlov's. All right, but this talks about in-text citations. And this gives an example of times when you just give the page number or you give the author's name and the page number. So this goes into a lot more detail about those things I just covered by showing you the example paper. And you can look at that on your own if you want to. It's right there in this assignment, okay? And when this video is done, I'm gonna post it in this assignment too, as I explain here. Video overview, but there's no video yet. I'm making it right now. Okay, alrighty. And I think that's about all I have for you on documentation. But the next thing I need to talk about is this right here, but I'm gonna do that in a separate video. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this video now. Alrighty, talk to you guys later.